For those of you that have followed my channel for a while, you know that I have 40 watches, or give or take. I've owned a whole lot more, far too many to count. And the other day I caught myself thinking, what would I buy if I had to start with a completely blank slate? Now, I'm going to approach this from the perspective that no individual watch can exceed the most that I've ever paid for a watch to date. So that's going to give me a huge amount of leeway, but this is going for the big boys kind of thing. I'm going to limit myself to 10 watches as well, because that's what my Excel sheet, which you know I have, says would be the optimal number of watches for my rotation. So that's the exercise. What would I buy and why? Let's dive in. I want a Rolex. I will apologize for absolutely nothing. I like Rolex. They make fabulous watches, but I only need one. Rolexes are all more or less variations on a theme, but they are different enough to have, unique use cases. In the current lineup, I think there are 3 watches I would consider. It's the 40mm Yachtmaster in rose gold. It's the Rolex Explorer 2 with the white dial, and it's the two-tone root beer GMT. The Pepsi has never appealed to me, and while I think the Daytona is fine, it just doesn't stand out to me. Datejusts and date dates are great, but I want something different. So there's the Explorer 2, which has got a rugged, outdoorsy vibe, where the Yachtmaster and the root beer are much more premium and flashy. And I think I find the Yachtmaster a little bit more underrated and a little bit unique, especially on the Oyster Flex. So, with the rose gold, the embossed bezel, that's the one I'm going for, simply to have the flashy of the flash, but still in weirdly an understated way. I also want an integrated bracelet watch. They're cool and they can have that kind of go anywhere and do anything kind of appeal to them. Of the options I keep coming back to, there's the 12 from Christopher Ward, there's the Nautilus, there's the Overseas, there's the Tonda from Parmigiani, and Nautilus realistically I can't afford because that's outside of the limit, the weirdly high limit that I've put in this video. But then there's the greenish hued dial Ingenieur in steel. I think that's an incredible alternative. It's in a wearable size. It's impeccably finished for its price. It's got the iconic Jetta design, which does mean something to me. And the movement isn't really a slouch. It's got 120 hours of power reserve. It's a little bit expensive for an IWC, but overall it's a model that's, considering it's made by the same guy that made the Nautilus and the Royal Oak, this thing is relatively speaking a bargain. So now I have 2 watches and I have over 100,000 subscribers, which I am very thankful for. Subscribers are a really good indication of whether or not I'm making content that's worth watching. So if you're new here and you feel the content warrants it, then please click the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's hugely appreciated. Thanks. Okay, so I also want a rugged diver, and I probably want more than one because I switch a lot between divers and they're sort of a staple of my collection. And they're like so many options, from the dressier options like the Submariner. There's the more rugged ones like a Tudor Pelagos FXD, and small finishing changes like polished surfaces, ceramic bezels, they can greatly affect the watch's feel. And while I already own, and you should know this, I own the Pelagos FXD, I'm actually going to go for something different. And it was my second in line, my runner-up, it was the Sinn U50 SDR. I think I prefer the Sinn U50 on a NATO, or maybe a rubber strap, because I think Sinn steel bracelets and clasps are not really that appealing to me. The Sinn U50 SDR is rugged though, it's a functional diver, it feels dense, it feels solid. I mean, if you've ever felt a Sinn, you know how solid they are, and it offers great value at 2,700 euros. That's definitely going in my collection. Ideally, I'd like to have a Seiko in the mix. They make super great watches, and I've never really cared too much about, all the complaints about accuracy. Honestly, the sub $1,000 watches don't always feel that competitive to what you can get from Chinese brands these days. There's misaligned bezels, there's subpar bracelets, wonky movements. It just adds up to a not particularly compelling value proposition. The SPB 143, which I already have, is in the running. And there's also the successor to it, which is the SP 453. But honestly, when I've already got a Sinn U50, another black dial, black bezel diver isn't, it's a bit of a waste of space, honestly. If you had 40 watches, you'd have space for that, but not when you only have 10. I actually had a bit of a disappointment when I went to the Seiko site because I was looking for an SLA 049, which is a Willard style case, but in a much more premium configuration. This is a shiny bezel. The case is also a lot more polished than a base Willard. It's also larger. There's also a much better movement inside. I think it's an 8L. They call it the Uemura, and it's a watch I've always felt was cool, and it covers the base of the diver that doesn't look like other divers' watch. So I'd take the bracelet off, I'd put on a NATO, and we'd be off to racing and driving and diving and swimming and all that kind of stuff. I want a chronograph. A chronograph makes sense. I don't ever really use the chronograph function, but a chronograph just has a little bit more going on the dial. And it's a complication that doesn't cost you too much. The pushers also add a little bit more to, make it a more interesting wearing experience without going overboard. The Daytona's out, but realistically, I probably wouldn't choose it anyway. I dig the Moonwatch from Omega, and I know for a fact that it's super versatile with its, really simple black styling. But the problem is the Yachtmaster that I've chosen can largely do what a Moonwatch can do, just with a little bit more panache. If I wanted something a little bit more down to earth, I could go Zin again, but not too many of the same brand in the 10 watch collection. So I'm sticking with the watch that I already have, which is the Zenith A384. Got a 5 Hz movement, El Primero movement. It's got a tonneau case, Panda dial. It's super wearable. It's got a display case back and a reasonable price on the secondary market. It's got to be in there. Okay, so how many we got? We've got the Rolex, we've got the rugged watch, or diver, the chrono, the quirky diver, and an integrated bracelet watch. I need a colorful watch. Only one, just one. Something with a summer vibe. Odds are this isn't a watch I'm going to wear a whole lot, but it's going to have its use cases. The on-trend brand would be Studio Underdog. I know I said it again, don't kill me. But honestly, they don't really speak to me that much, which is probably a little bit surprising as I do mention them a lot. For me, I know for a fact that, the ones that get talked about, the watermelons and the pizza dials, are designs that just get old very quickly. The more basic models are nice, but they're just a little bit expensive for what I feel they are. I also probably wouldn't go for a top-end model. There's no reason to buy a really, really expensive colorful watch if I'm not going to wear it that often. Fair, I've got some good options, but I'm going Nomos. And I'm going for a club. I'm going for the 38 millimeter, and I think I'm going for, I don't know I think it's called Endless or Summer Blue or Endless Blue. It's a quarter of the price of the Tudor Flamingo Not Pink, and it achieves the exact same thing aesthetically. Honestly, I could probably stop here. I think I've got most bases covered, but I've given myself 4 more slots, so what am I going to put in there? I think we're going to flip it around and say that the last 4 spots go not to a specific type of watch, but to a couple of brands I would like to get in there. And I'd like to get Grand Seiko in there. I'd like to get Omega in there. Jaeger-LeCoultre, Ulysse Nardin. I really like the Freak. I'd ideally like to have an AP. I'd ideally like to have a Patek. Breitling, believe it or not, I'd like that too. Breguet is also there. Yes, you think I'm against Breguet. I'm not. I just think the way they run their business is not that great. It's going to be expensive. So who else am I leaving out? Hamilton, a Murph would be cool. Christopher Ward, yeah, I like their watches, but honestly, I'm not going to save a spot for them. I actually, said it to their CEO a while back when I spoke to him. I feel they lack some emotional connection, at least to me. Formex would be in there if I had like a price limit, but I don't, so they don't get to stay there, and I've already covered with the Zin. So, if Zin didn't exist, I'd get a Reef. Screw it. I want a Reverso, and I want the chronograph for $27,000. I would sell my firstborn, but it's also about as close to a dress watch as I can realistically get. I also get 2 distinct watches for the price of 1. On the front, I get a simple and restrained chronograph, and on the back, I get a skeletonized movement with all the bells and whistles. It's a little bit on the bigger side, but I've had Reversos that are exact same size, and I know it will fit me, and I've also worn it, so I know for a fact that it's good. Of all the Reversos out there, this is the one simple as. Grand Seiko also has to get a spot. I've had the Shunbun on my consideration list on and off for years. Sometimes I felt it wasn't pink enough. Then I complained about the lightness of the titanium. Then I complained about the shape of the crystal. I've always found something to complain about, but after I've seen Pepto-Bismol pink from Tudor and Bremont and on Oris, I have to say that this is the best pink out there. It's a sports watch with a little bit of a twist, and it won't overlap with the Ingenieur that is, overall a little bit more classic with its greenish, bluish hued dial. I also get the 5 Hz sweeping seconds hand. I mean, it's also on the Zenith A3, A4, but it's relegated to a sub-dial, so it's not as noticeable. So that's also something I've been dreaming about. I know that's the kind of thing a nerd dreams about, how a hand moves around dial, but this is cool. We're not, and I'm not a healthy person. I can't afford a $67,000 Ulysse Nardin Freak, and it is the navy blue one I would want. I've handled it a couple of times, and it's just a really cool watch. So, yeah, that's above what I've ever paid for a watch, so can't do it. I'm keeping my Royal Oak. I'm going to pretend I could at least get it at retail again, but the Royal Oak has been one of my most used watches ever since I bought it. My wife thinks it's stunning, and I far prefer it to any Nautilus option out there. I actually have to check what it costs now these days. Give me a sec. $38,000 for a 26240. Oh, those prices have gone up. That's like bananas expensive. Okay, that's a little bit above what I paid retail back then. Let's just say that I'm going to sell my firstborn. We don't need a car. We can walk everywhere. It's staying in the collection. Okay, so let's have a look. We have the Yachtmaster, we've got the Ingenieur, Reverso Chrono, the Royal Oak, the Seiko Wimora, the Zinyu 50, and a Grand Seiko. So what am I missing? Breitling, yeah, the Super Ocean is covered by the Wimora. Chronomat, no, I don't need more chronos. I've already got a couple in the collection. Navitimer, the Navitimer's a little bit on the busy side. I like the Datora, but no, maybe an Omega. I mean, the World Time is a little bit too big for me, but the green version is like super appealing, and it's super Springbok, which is still a thing for me. I could switch the Uemura out with a 300M No Time to Die. No, I'm sticking with the Uemura. Ooh, Planet Ocean, 40mm. The gradated blue one, the one that came out last year. Okay, the Uemura is not in stock anyway, and it's not part of the regular collection, and I'm not going to buy a used one, or it's going to be hard to get a hold of. Okay, we're going for Planet Ocean. People, anyway, they always criticize me for never giving the Planet Ocean any love, and it does deserve love, and it's one of the few Omegas that has a really good bracelet. So, yeah. Uemura out, Planet Ocean from last year in. Last watch, Breguet 7597. Theoretically, it's affordable on the secondary market because it loses like 60% of its value. And I haven't done the math, but this sounds like I'm hitting over $200,000. Doesn't matter. This is a fun thing. It's unrealistic, but not the point of this video. Retrograde Breguet with Roman numerals. That's a stunning piece of watchmaking. I have to have it. Okay, so I just spent $200,000 or more dollars. I didn't do the math. Completely unrealistic. I don't have that kind of money in total. I could maybe save for an individual watch over time, but it's a fun exercise. I hope you thought so too. If this video resonates, I'll do one more looking at a more realistic total budget. So something like $5,000 per watch maximum. And here's my question. You guys know me a little bit. Have I made any mistakes? Have I chosen something where you think, Mike, you're not going to wear that thing? And of course, what would be your list? With the rule being that you have to have been able to afford any one watch at some point in time. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Like, subscribe. Cheers.